Do you know, I'm very disappointed I didn't just call it the Min-E, like M-I-N-E, because it's electric. This is the Mini Cooper SE, and it's an electric Mini. Now, it's not blatantly obvious on first impressions that it is electric, but there are a few little touches to tell it apart, and we're going to have a look at them now. So up front, you have a fig vent here to make you think it's a Cooper S. You have a nice flat bulbous front here with no air vents either, all flat, and a little green plug on the front. The fuel cap also has a plug on the front, and underneath you have your socket. Now the alloys are shaped like a 3-pin plug, as you can see here, and Mini have devised a very cool trick. What you do is you plug your car into the socket here, then you plug your 3-pin in here, and as the car spins the wheels, that charges the battery, and you get your better charge going. No? So while we're here at the socket, we may as well talk about charging. The Mini has a battery that is 32 kilowatt hours. So for comparison, a Zoe has 52 kilowatts. So it is a bit smaller than what is out there now. Now charging times are between 12 hours and 35 minutes depending on the charger you use. So your typical 3-pin plug is about 12 hours to charge from empty to full. Then public stuff is between 3 and 5 hours, and you can actually charge from 20% to 80% in 35 minutes on the high-speed DC 50 kilowatt chargers too. So plenty of options. The best bet is probably the wall box at home, which I think is about 5 hours, and that is a 7 kilowatt charger. So moving on to the boot. Well, now space has not been compromised thanks to batteries. They've actually kept it at 211 litres, which is the same as the Mini hatch. If you drop the seats down, it's 731 litres, and there is a handy little floor here for hiding your plugs and leads and all the lovely gubbins that come with electric car life. So the back seats of the Mini are not really for full-size people. Maybe if it is a shorter driver than me at 6 foot, I cannot even fit in here behind myself, so I'm not going to try that. Other than that, there is some Isofix, which is ambitious if you really wanted to lug kids in and out of the back of this, but that's up to you. Otherwise, maybe it's good for storage. So moving on to the front of the Mini. Well, a few people have asked me, sure, you'd be squished in that thing, it's tiny. Well, as you can see, I'm perfectly comfortable. I'm not cramped at all. There's acres of headroom, tons of legroom, loads of adjustment in the seats, way back, and you have adjustment in the steering wheel to suit whatever you want to. Oh, and these leather seats are very comfy. They've got my favorite knee adjuster, and they look cool too. So moving on to the rest of the cabin. Well, up here in front of the driver, you have a 5.5-inch digital dash, just sort of floats here in front of me. The steering wheel is lovely, coated in leather, and is actually a nice thing to hold and feel, and you have nice little thumb grooves here. Yeah, really nice steering wheel. We have an 8.8-inch touchscreen up here because we're in a press car and top spec. Looks really cool, functions really well, but one thing to keep in mind is it doesn't have Android Auto, so it's only for Apple. But I think Mini drivers probably are Apple people. There's also some nice ambient lighting around this lovely circular dash, and the toggle switches are just the best thing going. They're like airplane switches that you press up and down, and they just look so cool, and I really love them, and other people should start doing them because they're just cool. You've toggles up here as well to develop that airplane feel. You just tap them here and they control the panoramic double sunroof, which I'm not going to open today because I will drown. Now, all the Cooper SEs do come with sat-nav, and there's handy little features because it's an electric car. You will want to know where the public charging points are. It'll show you that on the nav, and there's also a big circular range finder. So the car will show you how far you will get on the range you have on the map. So don't go planning any longer journeys than what's inside that range. The nav can also show you the green route, so the route that will consume the least amount of energy on your journey. Handy little bit of knowledge in an electric car. Today's model also has some Harman Kardon speakers, head-up display, which I don't really like because it just is starting to remind me of coronavirus and then protector screens, and that's what it looks like. It just sort of floats here in front of you and pops up when you turn the car on. One thing that has annoyed me is the air conditioning will only go to 16 degrees. Normally you twist it down, it goes to 17, 16, 15 on some cars, and then it goes low. This will not go below 16 degrees, and that has frustrated the life out of me, and I don't even know why. I want low. So if you're thinking of spending your hard-earned cash on an electric Mini, prices start from €28,000, and that is after grants of €10,000 from the government and SCAI and all those lovely things to get people into electric cars. So the price of today's car is closer to, well, €45,000, but then you give the grant of 10,000, so it's about €35,000. It's well kitted out, it's a nice car. I don't know if I'd be racing to get it. I'd probably go for the entry level, the level one, if I was thinking of buying the Mini E. It's well kitted out and you really wouldn't miss some of those extras that I was explaining earlier. Right, so before we set off for a spin in the Mini, I just want to show you the sound it makes when it starts up. So listen here. And then when you turn it off, so futuristic. Right, let's go. Right, so as you're well aware at this stage, this is an electric car, so that means instant torque. Yeah, oh, it's so much fun every single time. It is a bit wet out. No, it's really wet out, so it does struggle for a bit of grip here and there, but otherwise it's a lot of fun. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour takes about 7.3 seconds, but the real star is 0 to 60 kilometers an hour, which is like 3.9. So when you're in around town, you can nip in and out of gaps, and it's actually just great crack in town. That's where this car really excels. So in terms of power, we have 181 brake horsepower and torque of 270 Newton meters, and that's instant, as you saw there. Now in the twistier stuff, it actually handles really well. Corners flat, it deals with its weight really well, keeps it level, keeps it grounded, and grip is immense, to be fair. So you come into a corner at a decent speed, use that torque coming out and just takes off. It is great fun every single time. Now there are a couple of driving modes on offer. Well, I say driving modes, kind of power modes. So at the top end you have Sport, which gives you the most response from that motor. Just kicks in as quick as possible and uses as much power as possible. Then there's sort of a balanced one, which chops and changes between which you need. Then there's Green and Green Plus. And now in Green Plus, that actually takes away comfort features like your heated seats and your air conditioning. So be in mind when you are trying to extend that range, you won't have certain comforts. And on a day like today, in the wet and misery of Ireland, you really want your air conditioning, or else your windows steam up, like what's happening to us right now. As with most electric cars today, there is some regen braking on the electric Mini. So you're driving along, you lift your foot off and it slows down as if you are pressing the brakes. And it is quite severe on the Mini, and there are times when you're a bit surprised by it, particularly if you are doing a bit more sporty driving. You come up to a corner and you want to scrub some speed off just before you get into it, or just sort of hold your momentum through the corner, and you lift off the accelerator, you get the brakes midway through, and that is a bit of a surprise at times. Once you get used to it, it actually kind of comes second nature, and you can modulate the throttle really well and just time it just so it applies those brakes as if you were doing it the proper way. I'm not sure how much I notice it actually giving back range to the battery, but I'm sure it's doing something there in the background. Now, if you're not a fan of that regen braking, there is a little toggle switch down here on the dash that will reduce it, and it's more typical of a standard car where you use your brakes and your accelerator as normal. Right, so we've established that it is fun to drive, and there's no denying that. Now, the bad thing is the range. So that smaller battery means you only get a quoted, now I'm saying quoted, 230 to 270 kilometers range. In reality, I'd say that's closer to 160. So say now, at this exact moment in time, we have 80 kilometers of range left, and that's 50% battery here on the screen in front of me. So if you're lucky, you're getting 160, 170, depending on your driving style, obviously. So where this car is best suited is obviously around town, and I'd imagine if you kept your driving around town, low speeds, you would start to trouble maybe higher ranges. But if you're doing motorway driving or anything over 100 kilometers an hour, don't bother, don't waste your time. You'll just eat through the battery and you'll break your own heart very quickly. That range just really is not long enough, and I know we've sacrificed range in a way to keep the car fun, because a smaller battery keeps it lighter, keeps it more nimble, and gives you those extra smiles. But each smile and mile is very precious here, and you will find yourself watching it maybe more than you want to. So how do we conclude the Mini E? It's a lot of fun, and I have had good crack with it all week, but that range is just too short. It's almost like it's obsolete before it comes out, in a way, which is very strange to say on a brand new car. But like when things like the Renault Zoe are doing 300-400 kilometers on a range, and we're only getting maybe 160 here, it's hard to justify it. Maybe if you're around town and you really love minis and you're committed to the EV venture, then it probably is worth a look. And the fun factor is just so much more than other electric cars. Every time it just gets me, I love it. If you'd like to search for a Mini on CarsIreland.ie, please do click on the link above. Please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you back again next week for another review. Thanks very much.